have great sound, but the most important thing is that it's a lot of fun. It's designed to do podcasting. So I'll just take it away. I'm going to start talking a little bit about how you can start setting everything up. And of course, I'm sure if you have questions, you just let me know. But in the meantime, I'm going to explain a little bit what I have here, my setup, okay? So right here, I have a microphone. This is a condenser microphone, and this is how you can listen to me right now. I'm using this microphone for streaming as well. But I have it also set it up for, recording in Wavelab Cast as we speak. And I'm going to share my screen as well so that you can see, maybe in a second. I'm going to finish with a setup first. So I have a pop filter. I'm sure you all know what that is. Basically, that allows me to just have like plosives, like P's or T's, and they don't go through in the microphone because this is also a condenser microphone, which means that it requires power in order to run, in order to work. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to turn it ever so slightly. I hope that it doesn't ruin. You can see there's a little bit of an LED light right there. This is the Steinberg STM01 microphone, by the way, if you're wondering. And I'm running it through an audio interface. I'm using the UR22C. So I'm using phantom power to power the microphone. Of course, if you are if you want to use a dynamic microphone, that also works just fine. It's one of the questions that I get a lot when people ask, okay, what microphone should I get if I'm going to start podcasting? And there's no easy answer to this. If you asked me, I would probably say condenser microphone, just because it gives you this nice proximity effect. It has a lot of sensitivity. The top end is really nice and smooth, silky. You can get a lot of nice low end as well if you get close to the mic. That you can do, of course, with the dynamic microphone as well. But dynamic microphones tend to be a little bit less sensitive, and you need to crank up the gain on your mic preamp. So my suggestion in a nutshell would be, if you have a good enough room that doesn't have tons of echo, and the reflections, then I would go for a condenser microphone. That's my personal choice. But that also requires phantom power. So if you have like a little mixer or an audio interface, you need to drive these guys with some current. But if you have a very reflective room with tons of, ambience, or if you have, let's say, like a noisy room, then a dynamic microphone might be a little bit more forgiving if you want to start doing podcasting, because it's not so sensitive. So you need to get close to it, and that means that it will get more of your voice rather than the room. But the downside is you need to have a good mic preamp. So if you have, your 22C will drive a dynamic microphone just fine, but if you have like a less than perfect preamp, then you might get noise from the preamp itself when you drive it in order to give enough level to a dynamic microphone. So that's all about the setup. It's a very simple setup: microphone, pop filter, cable goes to my audio interface, and this is pretty much it. Now I'm going to share my screen so that you can see Wavelab Cast, because this is where we're going to do all the magic. So can you see my screen? Everything good? Perfect.
Yeah, all good. Yeah,
fantastic. So this is Wavelab Cast. As you can see, I have a kind of a dummy project right there. It's a podcast that I just put together, but it's not a real podcast, so please don't judge me. As you can see, I have quite a few things going on there. Now, the great thing with Wavelab Cast, I'm going to say right off the bat, it's designed for podcasters, but in my opinion, it's a beautiful tool if you're doing anything that has to do with social media. If you're doing, you want to edit good sound for your Instagram posts, or if you're a YouTuber and you want to record some good voiceovers for your videos, because you can also import videos into Wavelab Cast. Recently, I was interviewing a beauty vlogger, and she was actually telling us how she does her workflow with Wavelab Cast, because in the past you used to bring everything into an editing software for video, and then she was doing the voiceover there, but it was quite tedious and quite difficult to do that. And she was telling us how she brings in her videos that are, of course, like tutorial videos for makeup and all these things. And basically, she does this amazing makeup videos where she does like some crazy makeup. I can't even draw a straight line. So it's, for me, it's amazing seeing all these things. And then she imports the video into Wavelab Cast, and then she starts doing her voiceover on top of it, because when she starts doing all the details for the makeup, she can't be really doing a voiceover at the same time. So this is another workflow that you might want to be aware of, because it's not about just podcasting, but it's also about something that people tend to forget when they're doing content on YouTube, on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram. Sometimes video is great, but the audio suffers. And the truth is, I think that everybody knows that by now, that people are going to be forgiving with a less than perfect video. Just if the video is not great, nobody's going to be super upset about it. But if the audio is not right, then people are just going to be turned off and not watch the video. They're not going to keep watching, because they're going to be like, I can't listen to this for more than 5 seconds. So it's very important that, we take care of our audio, especially when we're creating content, no matter where people are going to consume this content. Audio is number one. So, and coming from, I've worked with a lot of videographers, it tends to get, it tends to be like, now we have to take care of the audio as well. But it should be like the first priority, because it's so important. So yeah, I mean, this is like a impression of what Wavelab Cast looks like when you have podcast running right there. So here, I'm going to explain it to you. It's very, very simple. So we have our host channel right here. So this is going to be the host, if you're hosting the podcast. Then we have the music channel. This is very self-explanatory. It's where the music will go. Everything is drag and drop. So if you want to drag and drop some music, it's very easy. You go to your file browser, find a track here, and drop it into your music track. And then we also have a sound effects channel, which is also very good, because sometimes when you're doing a podcast, you might have some sound effects that you're using over and over again, and it's great if you have a specific channel for this, because you can adjust the levels and all these things and much more. I'm going to show you all these cool things that we have here. But before I show you all this, I want to show you how you can actually start creating a podcast, because this is where most people get confused. They launch a DAW or another program, and they kind of get lost and they get turned off, because there are so many options. So I'm going to do this from scratch right now as we speak. So if you want to start a new podcast in Wavelab Cast, all you need to do is go to File. And as you can see, we have quite a few templates right here. Now, these are great starting points, because it gives you an idea of what you're going to do. For example, you have host and guest. So that means you're going to be the host, and you might have somebody else that is going to be the guest, and you can have 2 microphones and record both of them at the same time. We can have host and 2 guests, host and 3 guests. So you pick your poison. It's very, very easy to get everything up and running. Now, in my case, because I'm here, just me at this time, I'm going to use host and music and sound effects. And then I have also the sample rate. So you might want to have it at 44.1. You might want it at 48. It's up to you really what you want to do. But the great thing is, when you double click on any one of these templates, Wavelab Cast is going to set up everything for you. So you're going to be ready to go and start recording your podcast. So I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to choose this one, and that's it. Now I'm actually ready to start recording a podcast. This is the one that I already showed you, and this is the new one. So I can have multiple podcasts running at the same time, which is great. So you don't have to close one and then go to another one. I can actually copy stuff between podcasts, which is really, really convenient. So as you can see, what we have here is the host channel, music, and sound effects. And now I'm ready to start recording pretty much. I can go to my host channel, and the only thing I need to do is just hit on record enable. And this is one of the things that I love about Wavelabcast. Like, how many times, I'm not sure if you, especially if you're a beginner or if you're not, you might be a podcaster, but you're not too tech savvy when it comes to DAWs and all these things. The most common question is, I can't record any sound, or I can't hear any sound. That's the number one question, is that I can't record anything. I'm trying to record, but nothing comes in. The great thing with Wavelabcast is that it knows that you're going to have this question. So if you go here and hit this record enable button, which means I'm going to arm this channel to get it ready for recording, it immediately gives me this dialog, and it tells me, okay, where do you want to record from? What's the source? So I can say, okay, I want my first microphone input or my second microphone input. I have two inputs. So it detects everything and it just gives me the option. It says, okay, which one do you want to use? I'm going to use the first input because this is where I have my microphone connected to. And when I do this, it tells me, okay, great. Now you have to save it because we don't want you to lose everything that you are about to record. So I'm going to hit okay. Let's call it Go Create Podcast. And I'm going to hit save. And that's it. Now I'm safe. Now I know that whatever I'm going to record is going to be saved. I'm not going to lose anything. So it kind of prevents you from making any mistakes, which is great because, again, another thing that happens, people start recording their podcasts, they forget to hit save, or they record it somewhere in the desktop or, a kind of random folder. They don't know where it is. That's it. It's gone forever. It's very hard, especially if you don't hit save, you just lost everything. So now that we've done this, we can actually start recording. Now, a very important thing. This doesn't have to do with Wavelabcast, but of course, I'm going to mention this because it's very important, and this is levels, okay? What levels should you have when you're recording your podcast? My humble opinion, I would go for somewhere around -12 to -6. Okay, this is the UR22C DSP-FX mixer, so it's very easy for me to get my levels. But pretty much every audio interface will have some sort of metering, so you can see that. On the actual audio interface, I also have a peak level indicator, so if it lights up, that means I'm way too hot. So I'm going to try and do this. I'm gonna try not to go way... Okay, see that? I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I would go a little bit, and actually you can hear the fans from my from my laptop right now. So I would probably go somewhere around there. In the yellow area, -12 to -6, and then I'm going to show you how we can boost this and make it nicer and bigger, because Wavelab has everything that we need to do that. So better to be safe, -12 to -6. We don't want to go to 0, of course, because that's going to be clipping, and digital clipping sounds bad. There's no way around it. Back in the old days, in the analog days, we could just drive the console a little bit more, and it kind of gave you like a pleasing kind of sound. But with digital, just stay away from 0 and you'll be fine. Everything clear up to this point? Any questions or anything? Let me see if I have.
I think Linda is asking there, Dom, where are you setting the value? -12 to -6?
Exactly. It's -12 to -6. This is a great starting point. And of course, what I'm doing here, because you can't see it, is I'm just turning the gain on my preamp up and down. So this is louder, and this... I'm gonna try to go for my loudest bit when I'm talking, and just make sure that it just hangs around -6 to -12. Did that answer the question, or was it something?
Yeah, she says.
Perfect.
Yeah, okay, got it. Thank you, Dom.
Fantastic. Cheers, Linda.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so once we're ready and we have our levels right, I'm going to show you something else. I mean, in case you happen to have one of these interfaces, in my case, what I have here going on is I also have a filter, and I would pretty much always suggest you use a filter if your audio interface has one. This is a high pass filter, and this means that this is going to cut everything below 80 hertz. In this case, I'm going to show you, this is my settings here, so this is 80 hertz, but I can change that in this specific audio interface. If your audio interface has something like this, I would suggest you use it, because these low frequencies will just be rumble, and eventually you will have to remove them. So if you remove them before you even start recording, this is all happening in hardware, so that we're not adding a plugin or anything like that. This is all from the preamp. This is way better. And the other thing that I'm doing in this case is I'm using a DSP effect, okay? What is that? This is basically an effect that runs on my audio interface itself. So it doesn't require any processing power from my computer or my laptop. And what it does is it compresses the sound a little bit, and it also adds a little bit of EQ. So if I turn it off, you will be able to hear the difference. So this is without, okay? This is the completely raw audio coming from my microphone, and this is with the DSP effects applied. Now, of course, you don't have to do this, and I would also suggest that if you are going to do this, it's better that you have an idea of what you're doing, because that you cannot remove easy after you've applied this, because this is going in this way. I tend to like this because I know that my voice has, these frequencies are not very nice for my voice. So I'm just turning them down. Can you hear that change? Perfect.
I certainly can.
Okay, fantastic. It's bad, right? So, and I also have this a little bit of compression there, not too much. See, a couple of dBs. This will help in the long run. I mean, but again, if you're not familiar with compression and EQ, just leave it off, because we can do all these things in Wavelab Cast. I'm just adding a tiny bit of mild compression and a tiny bit of EQ, not too much. You see, I'm just adding a tiny bit of it. And this is more so that you can hear me in a nice way, rather than because I'm going to go into Wavelab Cast. If I was recording straight into Wavelab Cast, I would probably have them a little bit less drastic than this. But anyway, I'm just mentioning this in case you happen to have a UR22C. You might want to try this, because the other thing that it has is you can just use this morphing channel strip and go through different sounds. I'm going to do this very, very quickly, just like that, see? So you can just morph between different sounds, and whatever sound you like, you can just keep it there. I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to go back to where I was. Like I said, I don't want to go too much with the compression. Hello, 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 hello. See, just like 1 dB or 2, just so you can hear me nicely. So once we've taken our levels, we're good to go. We can start recording. Again, it took a long time because I was explaining everything, but this should take you like 20 seconds in real life. So once we do this, we record, enable the channel, we hit record, and I'm going to record something now. Yes, hello everyone. This is a test for our podcast. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So I'm going to hit stop now. And there we go. We just recorded our voiceover right there. If you want, and you're like me, I like to change the color of my recording right there. I mean, sometimes I'd like to color code things. So I know that, okay, my voice is always red, let's say, and the music is purple, and the sound effects are green. So, for example, I can go here and say, okay, I'm going to turn this into red, because this way I can open it up at, at a later stage, and I know that this is my voiceover. Of course, I can see host here as well. And of course, you can change the name. I can say, this is Dom. Good. And you can customize everything pretty much. So we just recorded our voiceover right here. Let me move these zoom controls. And now I'm going to play it back. So I'm going to just turn off my mic for a second so that you can hear the sound just from Wavelab Cast. Yes, hello everyone. This is a test for our podcast. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom Power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So I'm going to hit stop now. So did this come through? All good? Could you hear that? Fantastic.
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
One thing that I want to say straight away is that these meters that Wavelab Cast has are extremely useful because we have. Let me just move Zoom a little bit. Come on. Okay, just Zoom is on the way in my screen. So we have the level meter right here. And we also have the spectroscope here. Now, this is really useful, the spectroscope, because it shows you if you have any low-end rumble right here. So, for example, let's say you don't have a filter on your audio interface or your mixer. This will show you if you have a lot of frequencies going on right here. If I play this, I'm going to show you. Yes, hello, everyone. This is a test for our pod. So you will see that it just rolls off really nicely right here. That's because we added the filter on the way in. But in case you don't have a filter, you might see some rumble here, and this will give you a good indication that, okay, I have too much low-end rumble going on. And I'm going to show you how you can fix this in a second. But this will tell you, immediately, just by playing this. Hello, everyone. This is a test for our podcast. You can tell, okay, I have too much low end, I have to roll it off, because then when you try to make your voice a little bit louder, you try to make your voice a little bit bigger, then you will get all this low end rumble, and it will prevent you from getting loudness, because low frequencies, they have lots of energy, they will trigger compressors, they will trigger the limiters in a bad way, so we can take care of this. And we can take care of this very, very easily on Wavelab Cast. And of course, we have the level meter, which again, I'm going to make some way so I can see it. And this will also tell you where you are in terms of level. This is a test for our podcast. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. And we can see that we're absolutely fine. We're not even close to zero. And now we have tons of headroom so that we can make our voiceover louder, clearer, more intelligible, and all these things. Now, I'm going to show you something else that we have. And I think this is, there are so many great things that I can show you here. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to try and show you some things that you can do that I think are really cool. And I think it pays off. I will show you this before I get to these guys right here that are the stars of the show. But let's say that you want to edit this. We have this recording here, and I can say, okay, you know what? I want to go and edit the source. So what I just recorded. Now I can open this as a WAV file, because right here, one thing that, I mentioned in the beginning, it's a montage. So that means we have several channels. It's almost like a DAW approach, but it's way, way more streamlined, okay? We don't see any things that we don't need for podcasting. But this is the wave editor. So this is where we can start doing a lot of things. We can, if there are any clicks, we can remove them. We can mute selections. We can create beep noises, for example, if you want to add a beep sound somewhere because, you want to just hide a word or something like this. You can do all of that. But one thing that I want to show you is that if you select any of the audio, you can actually create a 3D frequency analysis. And this is, first of all, it's so fun to watch. It always fascinates me, but you can actually see a snapshot of your voiceover. You can see the frequencies, you can see where you roll off, the low end. See, I can see that below 100 hertz, it's quite clean. So that's good. If you see a lot of stuff going on here, again, you can tell that, okay, there's something wrong. Or if you see like a line right here around 60, 50, depending on where you are located in the world, that means that you might have some buzz or hum from, electrical devices or something like this. And I'm going to show you how to fix that. But before you even start, you can start visualizing what you've just recorded. and you can just go like this, see every aspect of your audio. Okay, this is really, really nice. It looks really fancy. I want to show you that. But I want to show you now what we can do for our audio that we just recorded. Now, the great thing is that we have this section right here, the track inspector, and this is one of the unique things that we have in Wavelab Cast, because what you can do is, first of all, fix any problems that you have in your podcast recordings, and then you can enhance your voiceovers very, very easily. Now, the great thing is that this is super easy to use. It's just one knob operation for pretty much all of these processes right here. So remember when I told you might see like a line, it could be a hum or anything like that. Well, in the clean section, because we have two sections, clean and enhance, we have a dehummer. And what this will do is it will allow you to remove any hum from, sometimes you get this hum from, it could be a ground loop, or it could be an electrical device or something like this. And it would be like a low frequency. And like I said, depending on where you are, it could be at 50 hertz or 60 hertz. So you can choose between these two frequencies. You can also listen to this. So if you have this, you can isolate it, see if you have any problems right there. And then you can just turn this knob up, and then you can remove as much as you want. The great thing with Wavelab Cast is you just listen and tweak these knobs and you should be fine. You don't need to just dive into multiple parameters that you don't know what they mean. Oh, what is like, the profile, noise profile, what does that thing do? You don't need to worry about that. It's all ready to go. Just click on this and you have a denoiser, for example. So if I play this back, I'm going to try and do this. You're already listening to the noise coming from my laptop, so it's not going to be very easy to demonstrate that, but I'm going to try. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording. Okay, let me go here and activate again because I was on the music channel. Let's go here. There we go. Test for our podcast. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So I'm not sure if you could hear this, but basically what we're listening here is we activate the denoiser, we just tweak this reduction knob, and we can also listen to the noise. It's a very, very useful thing because we can actually do this. This is the sound coming from a condenser. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight. So the trick here is you turn on listen, and when you start hearing the voice creeping in, then you back it off a little bit, and this will get rid of the noise, and it won't touch your voice. Sometimes I tend to go a little bit higher, so I'm just barely touching the voice, because even if it kind of removes a tiny bit of the top end from the voice, it pays off because we're going to follow it with quite a few nice things, and we're going to gain this beautiful top end back. It's not a problem. So if you have a particularly noisy environment like I have right now, because my laptop doesn't really like it when I have a streaming camera on and it completely spins like crazy, you can just go a little bit higher with the reduction, and it will get rid of the noise for you. So this is fantastic because I know many people have this problem, especially if you're on a laptop and you have it in front of you and you're trying to record a podcast like this. So this is a well-known problem, and this is a solution. Then we have a de-esser. This is again super important. Now what this does is it will tame these S sounds, S, Fs, all these things that are really harsh and can really ruin the sound of a podcast, especially because people want to have like a nice silky sound and a nice assertive voice. You don't want to have like these S's that sometimes can be really distracting, sometimes they tend to be harsh, and I'm going to warn you, the cheaper the microphone that you're using, the more pronounced these S's are going to be, because cheap microphones, what they tend to do is they're trying to impress you with lots of top end. And they tend to have a very, very high top end. So that introduces noise, of course. So you need the denoiser more than if you had like a quality microphone. And these S's are going to be really harsh. So this can salvage cheap microphone recording. It can really help with that. Now, the way you do this, again, you just use a reduction knob, you just listen, and you can also change the character. So depending on where the S's land in the frequency spectrum for your voice, you can just fine tune them to your voice. So I'm going to play an example. Sound coming from a condenser microphone. Sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So I'm going to hit stop now. So it just removes the S's in a nice and natural way. Again, you can go a little bit higher if you want to. I think this is going to be fine for this example. And then we have the enhance section. As you can see, very, very simple. You don't need to go into super complex settings. Now, the enhance section, this will basically make our voice sound beautiful, big, loud, crystal clear. And again, it's dead easy to use. The first module that we have is the voice exciter. And this is one of my favorites because it's not an EQ. It has some really clever processing going on, and it creates this silky top end that many people associate. I mean, in my case, I associate it a lot with FM radio, where you have this announcer voice and they have this crispy, very, very smooth top end, but it's such a pleasure. I mean, if you're doing ASMR videos, you're going to love this. It's so great because it can bring up all these beautiful top ends. Fantastic. So I'm going to show you this. Again, I'm going to mute my voice so that you can hear what it does. Again, you turn on the amount and then you just up the clarity, and this will give you intelligibility. It will also make your voice a little bit more, it gives it a little bit more sheen. So I'm going to play this now. Let's try this. I'm going to turn it all the way down, and then we're going to process it. Yes, hello everyone. This is a test for our podcast. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So I'm going to hit stop now. Yes, this is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So I'm going to hit stop now. Now, the great thing with the voice exciter is that what I love about it is that when you remove it, you're missing it, but when you add it, it doesn't sound like your voice is over processed or anything like that. It's very smooth, and it can really help you get a more polished sound out of your voiceovers. The next module that we have is the reverb. And this is if you want to add a little bit of space to your voiceover. Sometimes I like to use this as an effect, if you want to create like a drama kind of, moment in your podcast. It's very, very cool. And you can actually customize it again. You can change the size of the reverb so you can make it a really tiny claustrophobic room, or you can turn it into an abbey, or I don't know, like a church or something like this. And again, you have a mix, so you can make it completely wet, or you can make it, just add a tiny bit of it, just a hair of it. Let's have a listen. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So I'm going to hit stop now. And just like that, we're in a cave. So, it's a nice thing to have if you want to add a little bit of drama or a little bit of contrast to your podcast. I'm going to turn it off for now, and I'm going to move on to the next process, which is the EQ. And this is going to be so handy, especially if you don't have a filter, like I said in the beginning, because this actually has a filter. It has a low cut filter. This will cut all the low end rumble. And then we have a very, very simple 3-band EQ. So we have highs, mids, and lows. Again, you don't need to be technical in order to be able to use this. I'm going to just try it for a second, and let's see how it sounds. First of all, low cut filter. I'm going to add it anyway, because even though we added like a low cut filter on the preamp, this will really clean up our vocal even more. So let's do this. Hello everyone, this is a test for our podcast. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So as you can hear, I went for a kind of FM radio announcer voice. I added a little bit of low, and I removed some of the mids, because for my voice, it makes my voice a little bit smaller if I add too many mids, because my voice has lots of mid-range. But I helped myself with the low end, because I don't have so much low end in my voice, and this actually helps. And all these controls are fine-tuned so that you don't have to search for the right frequency. The mid-range is where it should be, the high end is where it should be. The low end, it doesn't sound boomy, it sounds bigger, So this is all, it was designed so that it's easy to use, but it gives you the right sound. And then we follow it up with the last process, which is the maximizer. And this will basically make sure that your voiceover is going to be consistent. You're not going to have too many ups and downs in terms of levels. So it's going to make your voiceover compact, and it's going to make sure that it doesn't go higher than 0. So that means that not clipping, right? And this will basically make your voiceover louder, which is what we want, because we record it at healthy levels. But of course, when we're going to publish our voiceover, it's going to have to compete with music. It's going to have to compete with sound effects. Of course, you have to have like a specific level when you upload, so that your podcast doesn't sound really quiet compared to other podcasts. So this will help. So I'm going to show you how this sounds. Hello everyone, this is a test for our podcast. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So I'm going to hit stop now. Yes. And there you go. I mean, you can still hear the sound out of my microphone, but I think that you can tell the difference. I'm going to turn everything off now. We'll see how we started, and then I'm going to add each process. Apart from the reverb and the dehammer, I don't have any hum here. So I'm going to add each one of these, and then we're going to have a listen to the difference that it made. Yes, hello. Hello everyone, this is a test for our podcast. This is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So I'm going, yes, hello everyone. This is a test for our podcast. So this is the sound coming from a condenser microphone. It goes through an audio interface. Phantom power is activated, and I'm recording straight into Wavelab Cast. So it's, the great thing is you can get to this sound just by using these simple controls. And if you're more advanced and you want to add more plugins, of course, Wavelab Cast supports third-party plugins, and it also comes with quite a few plugins as well. So if I go here to Steinberg, you can see I have all the additional plugins that I can add if you want to. Okay, if you find that you want like a more specific sound, you can actually go here and start, adding a delay or maybe a brick wall limiter or maybe a gate. That would be a good idea if you have a very noisy room. We have a studio EQ, effects, stereo enhancer, quite a few things. And of course, you can load any third-party plugin. So I have like a long list of third-party plugins here. So if you want to go and dig into more plugins and stuff like this, of course, you can do this. But if you don't want to go too technical about this, these two sections, the clean and enhance section, are going to be your friends. And then, of course, we have the master section. Now, this is the final thing. This is where everything is going to go. The voiceover, the music, the sound effects, they're all going to end up here, and you will be able to see the levels of your entire podcast compared to just, the voiceover, for example. So if I go back to my podcast here, I'm going to make sure that it's not too loud. Let's play something, and you will see what's going on right here. Hello everyone and welcome to the podcast. It's the first podcast for May 2022, and today we're going to talk about a subject that many of you have been asking about. And this is, which is better for podcasting, condenser or dynamic microphones? Okay, I think this is a good example to show you what else we can do here. This is the master section. As you can see, I've added like a brick wall limiter. This is a good idea to do on your podcast before you publish them, because you can do this straight from Wavelab Cast as well. Very, very simple. What I've done here, I have a threshold of -1 dB. So that means that my audio is not going to go over 1 at any point. And this way we're safe. I also have the detect intersample clipping on. This is very, very important if you're uploading on any platform. I would always suggest you have it on. This will make sure that nothing will go over 0. And even, devices like phones and less than perfect audio conversion is going to be okay, and it is not going to distort. This is what this thing does. It's very important. So this I added to my master section. But now, if you noticed, while I'm playing this podcast, I added some reverb to the sound effects in the beginning, as you can see. I have a fade in right here, and I'm going to show you this as well. And here, check what happens to the music when the voiceover comes in. Hello everyone and welcome to the podcast. It's the first podcast for May 2022, and today we're going to talk about a subject that many of you have been asking about. And this is, which is better for podcasting, condenser or dynamic microphones? The truth is, there is no right answer for this. So as you can hear, the music goes down in level when my voiceover is present, and when I stop or I pause, it goes up in level. Now, this is another thing that many people do in various pieces of softwares. I mean, even YouTubers, I know they do it, in their non-linear editor of their choice, Premiere Pro, Final Cut, it's depending on what you use. And it's a very tedious process. But what Wavelab Cast has is it has a ducker. And this is what allows us to do all these things without drawing any automation right here. You can see this. This is the music. I haven't done anything to it. It's just playing in the normal level. Of course, if I want to, I can select and say, okay, I have this, the voiceover placed here, so I can just push it down and so on and so forth. But, I mean, it will take a long time, especially if your podcast is like, I don't know, 1 hour and you have music under it. It's going to take you a long time to do this, because you can do this. It's very easy. It's, you can actually start creating points and doing automation. And, of course, with Wavelab Cast, you can see the waveforms redrawing in real time when you're doing your automation. I'm going to undo here. But the way you set up the ducker in Wavelab is so simple, you will never go back, I'm telling you. Because what you do is you go to your voiceover and you say, okay, I want to make sure that when the voice comes in, music goes down. The voice stops, music goes up. and I want it to sound natural, like in radio, you know? Let me show you how easy it is to do, because I've done it already here, but I'm going to show you straight away. This is the music. This is what I want to affect. And in order to activate the Docker, you just go here. See this symbol here that goes like, this is the Docker. So I can turn it on, and now I can say, okay, which is the source? And the source is myself, host. So I'm going to hit source, and I'm going to select host as my source. I can even say I want to have the sound effects, for example. But in my case, I'm going to just go for host. Okay, you can do both if you want to. But when you do this, you're good to go. You can actually fine tune this to your liking. So if you press this E button right here, you can see that you can choose how much the music is going to be attenuated, your voice threshold. So for example, if you have like a little bit of a something like this, it won't trigger the music to go down. But when your voice comes in like loud and proud, then it's going to reduce the voice. But if you're just sitting there and you just accidentally touch the microphone, it's not going to duck the music. You can also say how long it's going to take for the attenuation to be held down. So for in this case, we have 2 seconds. We can choose the fade in, the fade out. So for example, at this stage here, you will see that when I stop talking, it's going to remain there for 2 seconds, and then it's going to go up. So let me play this. Podcasting, condenser or dynamic microphones. So it didn't take into account this one because it was a little bit low. So because of my attenuation here was at -20, this wasn't picked up. So after 2 seconds, the music went up again. Super simple. It's so easy to use, and I'm telling you, even in really, really big DAWs out there, if you want to try and do this, it takes quite a few steps. This is like literally one click away. So I would always use this over just automating everything. So this is the Docker. I want to ask if you have any questions up to this point.
There's lots of people joining us on social media as well. So hi to everybody out there too. Same Tom. And to remember that, this software is so incredible, Dom. Thank you for showing us through. And so just to remind everybody that we do have discounts for GoCreate students. So if you are looking to get it, just to make sure you get in touch with us and we can give you pass on that discounted price from Steinberg. Just onto the questions here, Dom, there is, Damien has just asked here, how are you routing the audio? It would be good to know how to share audio live while simultaneously recording in Wavecast or another DAW.
That's a very good question. The way I'm doing this right now, I would probably, you can stream with the audio. I'm using, the reason why I'm able to do this is because I'm using this, where is it? Let me find it. Yeah. I'm using the UART22C, and for this audio interface, we have quite a few loopback modes. Now, you need to have a loopback in order to be able to do this. So right now, so that you can hear what I'm doing and what I'm saying, is I have my microphone connected, of course, and this gets sent to the loopback right here. So as you can see, I have off. I'm not gonna turn it off right now because you're gonna stop hearing me. We have livecast and voicecast. Now livecast is when I want to hear you and you can hear me, and I can just stream the music and my voice and everything. It goes into one channel and you can hear what's going on. But what would happen if, for example, I started recording on Wavelabcast and someone of you talked? It would also get recorded because the audio from my computer also gets recorded right now through this stream that you see right here. Now, if I go voice chat, that means that it's going to be basically just myself. So it's more for like a call situation. But livecast is for these kinds of situations. You're doing a webinar, you're doing a live stream, stuff like this. You're going on YouTube and you want to play some music from your DAW, and you want people to also listen to you. So this is how I'm doing it. But of course, I wouldn't maybe do a podcast like this, because then you have to think about other things, because everything is going through one channel. So you can actually do a podcast. I would be able to hear you. I would be able to record you, but both of these streams would be on the same channel with this setup, unless you have two interfaces connected to your laptop or computer, and this way you can actually completely separate them, and you can do anything you want. But this is totally, you can actually do podcasts like this. It's just not my preferred way, because everything goes into one stream, and I want to have flexibility, because you might talk over somebody else. You might be interacting and both your voices are overlapping. So maybe I want to have, for example, different effects on my voice, because my voice might be in a nice and treated room, but my guest's voice might be in a very noisy environment, and I want to add some more of this denoise. I'm trying to get rid of Zoom here. This denoise process here in the WaveLab Cast. So I want to have flexibility, but you can actually do this if you want to. It's totally fine if you want to do this.
Thank you, Dom. So part of, I think, the wonderful thing here with WaveLab Cast is it's the simplicity of it, how it is so accessible to everybody. Julie has asked, she said, one of the barriers with sound editing is that it's easy to become perfectionist about it, and sometimes never feeling like your podcast is ready. She wanted to know, Dom, if you have any tips for avoiding this perfectionism when editing.
That's a very good question. I think we're all guilty of this. I'm guilty of this on so many things. I mean, when I'm producing a track, it's when I have a deadline, it's so much better, because I know, okay, I have to do this. There's no way around it. This is going to be, I would say, this is the solution. This is what I found. It works for me. I set a deadline. I said, okay, if I'm not done by then, by this day, that time, that's it. I'm going to release it, whatever happens. Because the thing is, I've had this a lot with when I was mixing. I was doing mixing artists and doing production. Sometimes we would go on for a track for, I want to say years, months. Sometimes it was dragging for 1 year. And this tambourine, can we just bring in 1 dB lower? Oh, can we just bring it up? In the end, nobody's going to notice that. It's not going to be a hit record if you just pull that tambourine down for 1 dB. It's not going to make any difference. But we get to be, as artists, as creators, we tend to be very involved with all these things, and we tend to be, sometimes we get to obsess about these little things. So I would say, just set deadlines. If the content is good, people are going to resonate with it anyway. I have exactly the same experience with YouTube. I was always postponing. Oh, you know what? It's not ready. Let's do this edit. Why don't I work on this a little bit more? Once I started setting deadlines, I was like, okay, I'm going to release a video on Friday, on every Friday. There's no way around it. I can't be messing around with the edit for 2 weeks, because I have to release the video, and that's it. So if you have like a schedule for your podcast, and you say, okay, I'm going to release 1 podcast every Monday or once a month, then you're already setting some, goals to yourself. And, it doesn't have to be perfect. I think the most important thing is, having something good in terms of content, and work on the content more than the technical aspects. And I think this is one of the reasons why I'm so keen on WaveLab Cast myself as well, because it has everything you need and nothing that you don't need. That's the most important thing. It's not like you're going to get lost in, oh, wow, what if I did this? And, oh, how about, oh, there's a synth right there. No, you don't need any synth when you're doing podcasts, you know. So, or you don't need a media editor if you're doing podcasts. So it doesn't distract you. You are in a very clean environment. You have your working space right here. You have your editing. I'm going to show you very quickly this one as well. And you have your processing. And with these things, you can get everything done. You don't need much more. And if you want to, you can just go here to the additional effects and say, okay, I want to add a, like, I don't know, a Fab Filter limiter because I like this sound. Maybe you have a favorite compressor that you want to use on your voice. It's you know, I wouldn't just go nuts with trying to get the perfect, everything perfect. In my opinion, nothing is ever completely perfect. So, you know, I hope that this answers the question. It's a very valid question, though. I completely resonate with that. To be honest with you.
Thank you, Julie, for that question. Maybe a good first step is download the free trial so you can actually get a feel for the software as well yourselves. We can put the link in the chat box as well where you can do that. Kind of two questions, Dom. Sorry, I know you want to get back to doing a few other things, but just two questions come in that are sort of one on social media, which is there a limit to the amount of tracks? And then one here from Wayne, which is kind of similar, which is there a maximum number of tracks you can have in a Wavelab cast session? And also, can you manually alter the fade curves?
Very good questions, both of them. You know what? I have to be honest with you. Because I'm only using Wavelab Cast for podcasts, I never go over 3 or 4 channels. But why don't we do this right now? Okay. So I'm going to show you how you add channels as well, because we just showed you how you can start with templates. But what about if you want to modify a template or create your own? So if you want to add channels to the existing ones, let's go here, for example, this empty one. I already have my voiceover channel, my music, and my sound effects. So if you want to add more channels, you go here, plus, and say I want to add a stereo track. Let's add another mono track, and we can add another stereo track, mono track. Okay, and this is basically... I mean, I don't think that you will ever get to these many tracks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's add some more. Let's see. You can also add a video track, by the way. I never mentioned this. And this is it. Once you get to the limit, Wavelab Cast will tell you. So it will tell you, okay, you're limited to 8 tracks. But I think this is, I mean, if you honestly, if you want to go more than 8 tracks, I think you probably have different needs. So you're probably going to have to check if you want to go into the maybe Wavelab Elements or maybe even Wavelab Pro, or it depends on what you want to do. But I think like 8 people in a podcast is going to be an opera. You know, so maybe but yeah, this is to answer the question. I wanted to show you what happens when you keep adding tracks. I never go over 4. It depends on how many guests you're going to have, but I mean, at least for YouTube, I always have 1 voiceover, maybe 2 if I have somebody else as a guest, and then music and effects. Of course, you might want to do crossfades and all these things, so you might want to have 2 channels of music. But that ties in very nicely to the other question that you had, because this is, in my opinion, okay, this is not going to be like a super fancy like these track inspector things, but in my opinion, it's the biggest thing in Wavelab Cast. I'm going to show you this now. And this is the way you actually edit, the way you actually do crossfades and the workflow. So, for example, this is my voiceover here, and you could tell that I did like a... This was not by accident, of course, because I'm a pro. No, it actually was. I'm terrible with this, but I'm going to show you. This is which is better for podcasting, condenser or dynamic microphones? Okay, this is clearly wrong. I don't want this in my podcast, obviously. So let me show you how you can start editing, because this is where Wavelab Cast shines. It's designed to do voiceover work. It's designed to do podcasts. It's designed to do content creation. So let's say I want to cut. Let's say I want to cut here because I can see that this is where I want to go next. I don't want all this silence here. maybe I want it, but in this case, let's pretend that we don't want the silence. So if I hit S or I just hit split clips, okay, the shortcut is S, okay? If you hover your mouse here, you will see shortcut S, but you can change the shortcuts if you don't want S. For example, if you're used to a video editor, you might want to have B there for Blade or something like that. I tend to change these things all the time, but S works for me. So I press S and see it splits the voiceover. But now this is the trick. This is the great thing for me. And this will, if you're working in video, it might remind you some specific video editors. So now if I want to close this gap here, so I can do this, check what happens. There we go. So it closes the gap for you, because there's no point in me having this gap here. Let me show you this gap. Okay, I would have to do this then and just drag it next to it. And for podcasts, sometimes you might also want to make them tight. You don't want to go with long pauses and it just drags on and on. You might want to make them a little bit tighter in terms of time. This is something that I was doing all the time when I was editing TV ads or radio ads. You have 20 seconds for the ad. You have to make sure that your voiceover doesn't have any breaths, anything. It's super tight and very, very fast. So if I start doing this and start editing like this, and I say, okay, I'm going to edit here, split, and I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to drag this here, and what if we split here, and we drag, you know what I mean? It takes a long time. I can't believe I'm so slow doing this. But if you activate this function here, which is, I think it's by default, it's on by default, and it's called auto shift clips on the right, this is what you want for a podcast workflow, because you can go here or dynamic microphones. That's it. Okay, that's fine. There we go. Done. Okay, I've done my edit. Tight. Now, if I want to create crossfades, this is another area where Wavelab Cast shines. I can go here and say, okay, I'm going to go like this. And it creates a crossfade for me. Super simple. I don't even have to lift a finger. It's just literally just drag here and it automatically creates a fade. If I go this way, see, I can just move everything like that. Now, the other great thing is that let's say you've added, you know, maybe you are announcing something. Hey, here's Susan, you know, and I have an explosion. But I know that when I say this word, I have, for example, let's just drag this here just for the fun of it. I'm going to try and see if I can just move this here, okay? So let's say I want to have this sound effect right here. Now, what if I had this thing here and I want to cut, okay, split. And if I move this, you will see that, okay, it moves, but oh, I lost the sync point here. Now, what you can do to remedy this is you can activate this option here, auto shift clips on the right for everything, you know, for all tracks. So when you do this, that means that if I start moving things around, everything is going to follow. If I deactivate it, see, it just moves everything just for this channel. But if I go global, then, oh, there we go. Now my sound effect is following as well. And this is something that you won't find on, you know, a DAW or an application that is not designed for this thing, because it doesn't know what to do. It doesn't really understand. This doesn't make any sense in musical context. Okay, if I had drums here, I had a voice here and a guitar here, and I did this, this would be a total disaster. It would destroy everything. But Wavelab Cast is designed for podcasting, and this makes total sense for podcasting, content creation, because you want the sound effect to be with this point here. The same thing with the music, see? If I drag the music, I can move everything with it. So I'm not going to lose sync. So for me, these are the real heroes of Wavelab Cast, and it's kind of hard to show them off. I mean, if you were doing like a marketing video or something like this is probably something that you can't really show and nobody will appreciate it. But when you start working with it, This is, for me, this is what's going to make you super fast, because you can go like this. Okay, I can see a little bit of a breath there. Cool. Let's split it. There we go. S. That's it. Cool. And see how tight I can make this podcast just by not even listening to this. You know, I can see exactly what's going on. Oh, there we go. Here we have this one. Okay, see, it drags everything right there. Move this, boom, crossfade, done. I don't even have to, oh, well, press this button for crossfade, and I can do this and that. You can also have cue points. Again, not something that is, fancy, doesn't sound fancy, but if you want to start recording your podcast and you know that this is where the music, this is the place where the music goes down, and I want to start introducing my voice over there, you can say, okay, I want to add a cue point there. So set that cursor, there we go. And now my cursor will snap when I go, let's see, boop, cue point. It tells me where we have the cue point, see? There we go. So now I can start recording straight away. You can, of course, change the colors if you have like a specific voiceover that you want it to be repeated somewhere. You can say, okay, I'm going to color this orange, and now I can't lose it, because you might have chop, 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 everything, like little events everywhere. You can have this here. I'm not going to lose it because I know this is the orange portion of my voiceover, and this I have to reuse it somewhere else. Of course, you can cut, paste, all these things. You can do fade-ins and fade-outs. You can change all these things. I think I've done some here, but I'm going to show you how easy it is to make them in Wavelab Cast. Let's split here. S, and you just drag, and you create a fade-in. If you drag from here, you can do a fade-out. And of course, I can change the volume and double-click and create my points like this, and do all sorts of crazy things. Now, if you want to change the type of the fade in and the fade out, you can just do it like this. So you can create exponential, you can create, sinusoidal, and any kind of different type of shape. You can do this like that. And I like using shortcuts for this a lot. I don't like just going here, but this is up to you. You can say, as you can see, I have my shortcut is I for my fade in and O for my fade out. So if I go here and I go like this, press O, I can just create a fade out like that. So it's very easy to start creating, fades. And the greatest thing is this, the auto fades. In my opinion, it's so easy to create auto fades and readjust them as well. So you can actually turn this off if you don't want to, but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want the automatic crossfade, but there is an option here. And when you're done with your, editing, your processing, and all these things, then you're probably ready to go and upload, right? So Wavelab has you covered with this as well. So if I go back to edit, you will see that, of course, we have a render option. That means that this is going to bounce the whole podcast into a single audio file. But this is the interesting bit, especially if you're doing podcasts and you want to upload them and you want to streamline your workflow. You can click on this. And this is what a dedicated podcast application does. It gives you all the host services. So we have Spreaker, Podbean, SoundCloud, and so on and so forth. So if I go for Podbean, see, it's going to start looking for this service. And I can say, okay, I'm going to say, let's call this Go Create. And I can hit upload, and this will go straight to my host service, and it has the title and everything. I can also set my encoding presets. You can do whatever you want. You can do AAC, MP3, WAV. It's up to you, and you can use any of these services. You can also create an RSS feed if you want to. So if you want to upload your podcast to an FTP server or something like this, you can do all your descriptions here, your feed, your info. You can go very, very deep, and you can actually upload straight from Wavelab to your RSS feed. So I'm going to hit no for now. And of course, if you want to, you can also add markers. cycle markers, and if you have a point that you want to go and revisit or add some more effects or something like that, you can add a marker like that. And you can add several markers. And if you want to have an overview of your markers, again, you don't have to search. You go here to your markers and you can actually say, okay, I'm going to just go to this marker or go there. And it's very easy to navigate through your project. And one last thing, because you might not see it at first glance, if you have like a very long podcast, maybe, I don't know, 2 hours or something like this, you might get lost very easily and you have to scroll, zoom in, zoom out, and so on and so forth. If you click on this icon right here, this will give you an overview of your project. So you can actually go like this, and if you have your cursor here, you don't want to miss that spot. I think that some of you might be able to relate. You leave your cursor there untouched, don't touch it, go here, just move around and see where you are, and then your cursor remains there, but you don't do this thing. Oh no, where was it, So everything is very well thought, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time, you don't have to be frustrated. And I mean, I'm honestly just barely scratching the surface here, but in a nutshell, that's WaveLabcast, and this is how you can start, producing podcasts. And I hope that you found this useful and you have an idea of how to work with it. Like Susan said, there's, you can try the trial and give it a go. See how you feel about it.
Can I just squeeze in a few last questions to you, Dom, before
Absolutely.
we hop off? So I just wanted to. John Paul has asked via YouTube, is there any delay effect in the software?
Yes, there is. I'll show you how you find it as well. So if we go here to host, let's say I want to add delay to my voiceover. So if we go to additional effects, okay, this is an addition. It's not one of the clean or enhance modules, but if you go here, there's a Steinberg folder. If you install it without any plugins, you won't have all these things that I have right here. Most of them are anyway music and mixing related. So if you go Steinberg, these are all the effects that we have. We have stereo delay. So if I add this, let's actually see if I can try this very quickly for you. Whether it has phantom power. So we have that. and of course you can completely customize it, right? So this is just the initial preset, but if you want, you can go here and you can actually find quite a few nice presets. So if you don't know how to set up a delay, don't worry. There are quite a few presets that you can actually choose from, and you can also organize them if you want to. So it's very easy to do that. And if we go stereo delay, I'm going to show you very quickly what else we have here. Brick wall limiter, we have a compressor, we have a gate, another limiter, and reverbs. I mean, stereo enhancers, especially if you have music, that's going to be very, very useful, because you can make sure that the music is a little bit wider so that your voiceover sits nicely in the center and it has the space it deserves. So I hope this answered the question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dom. And I'm just going to do two more, and then because I know we're gone way over Dom's time here, there's quite a few questions coming in, but we just have time. Just do two more. One was Sarah was asking, if you're interviewing someone that's not in a room or studio with you, what's the best advice you have for making sure their audio is up to standard and compatible?
If you're interviewing somebody that's not in the same room, you're probably using Zoom or some sort of conference application or something like this. Most of them, they tend to have an auto noise suppression for this kind of environments. Especially, the biggest problem, I would say, number one, try and see if they can have a pair of headphones, because if they listening to you through the MacBook or whatever, the laptop or speakers, that's going to be really hard to fix. And if you have bleed in the microphone, from from speakers, it's a tough situation. You can fix it, but then you need really really specialized software, and it's not very easy. So I would say if they can wear headphones, number one. Number two, if they can have any sort of microphone, and I would just try and place them as close as possible to the microphone, okay? So that you get the least reflections and the least of noise, because that's what you're fighting with. It's noise. I mean, even myself, I'm in a treated room right now, but this laptop is killing me right now because it's spinning so loud that it's hopeless. But this is easily fixable with a denoiser. But if they have a very echoey room, with no furniture, no, it's going to be really hard because there's going to be too many reflections, and this might affect the intelligibility of the voiceover. So what I would say, close to the microphone, because this way you get more direct signal, less reflections. If they can, obviously this is luxury, but if they can have, I don't know if you can see it behind me, but I have like a shield, a microphone shield. And this way, you just make sure that you trap any reflections out of the recording. So this is another thing. But again, I know that this is not realistic most of the times. Most of the times you're going to have people that just use their microphones on their laptops or their phones. So I would say, they just have them wear headphones. And if they can go to a place in their house or wherever they are, where it has the least reflections. So I don't want to say, okay, let them hang a duvet or something like this. This would be ideal.
Put it over their head.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's very hard. And also, let's not forget, it's an interview or something like this. So you want them to be comfortable. But I would say, it depends on the circumstances. If they have a microphone, there are many ways to get around these problems. If they're just using a built-in microphone on their laptops, you can still get the sound and then just drop it into Wavelabcast and start, performing all these clean tricks so that at least you get the best sound possible.
Thank you, Dom. And just one last question, which is just a technical one on Wavelabcast. Neve was asking, how do you edit the waveform once it's recorded?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are two ways. I mean, you can start editing here. Okay, so of course this means that you can start doing all the usual things. So editing right here means that I can go here and say, okay, now I want to just start editing my waveform like that in terms of volume. Maybe I want this little phrase here. See this little phrase? It's a little bit louder than the rest. I can go like this and pull it down a little bit. So you can do all these things, but if you want to be a little bit more detailed with your editing, you can go here, select any piece of audio that you have recorded, and just go here and hit on Edit Source. And this will open a new window, and you can do many things here. As you can see, we can cut, copy, we can change the gain. If I want to add 3 dBs, I can do this, it adds 3 dBs. I can change the level, so I can add like presets. I can normalize all these things. I can just make sure that I have a loudness specification met here, so you can see I can have the whole podcast imported back into Wavelabcast and say, you know what, I want to make sure that this is compatible with Amazon Music and what Amazon Music suggests that we have as an optimal level, or Apple Music or Apple Podcasts. Again, everything is here. You don't have to do any guesswork. So if I want to make sure, okay, this is going to be an Apple Podcast, I can click on this and then it will adjust the sound. See? So now we have an Apple approved podcast just by, of course this was just a voiceover, but you know what I'm talking about. You can actually go here and just say, okay, I want to go for YouTube. What levels does YouTube have? Okay, YouTube needs louder levels. So you can do all these things here. Fade ins, fade outs again. Again, if you have clicks, you go here. I mean, one thing that I do all the time is, at least on the Mac, if you go Apple and the up arrow on your key, you go super surgical. You can go here. If you find a click here, for example, that means that you can fix it. Okay, you can just highlight it. I don't have a click, but I mean, let's say I had a click, and you can go here and say, okay, I want to remove the click. It's 1 millisecond. How many milliseconds does this click last for? And I can just completely remove it. And it's very interesting. Of course, if you go here, you can actually, what I like to do is, if I find a click, I can just go here and just fix it with my pencil. You can actually go that deep. And of course, this is something that comes from the full version of Wavelab Pro, but I can't believe it's here on Wavelab Cast as well. You know, if you have a click, I don't know if I can find something. I don't know if I have any clicks here. I don't have any, but a click will look like this. Okay, I'm going to emulate this for you. So if you go here, a click would look like this, something like that. Okay. So if you have something like this in your waveform, you can try and removing it by here with the correction tab. But most of the time, if it's something that simple, my tip to you is just grab your pencil tool and just do this. Check this out. Just do this. Just connect the dots. And your click is going to be gone. I guarantee you, unless it's something that's like this, which is not going to be like, this is going to be very bad, and then you can use this. Then if you just have like a little click, you can just remove it like that. It's, in my opinion, the most effective way, but not many people know about this tool here in Wavelab. I use this all the time in Cubase as well, because with music, many things are going on, many microphones are recording at the same time, so sometimes you might get clicks. What I do is I go here. You know, people are, oh, there's a click, what are we going to do? Oh, you know, let's take it to a specialized program. No, just do this and you're going to be fine. Not all programs do this, but Wavelab Cast has this, and so does Cubase. Same thing with, you know, you can add like a silence. If you want to add some silence somewhere, you can add silence generator, how many seconds of silence you want. If you, like I said before, if you want to add a beep here because you want to, okay, censor this phrase or something, you can just add a beep, apply. See, this might be a little bit loud, so I'm going to turn it down. Let's see. It's the fair, you know, I mean, that was a long beep. Somebody must have was very angry for, to get such a long beep. But you know, this is what you can do. You can also do global analysis and all these things. I hope this was a long answer, but I hope this kind of
it's incredible, Dom. And I think, I mean, I'm sure everybody else is thinking the same, that it's just incredible what this software does. You know, because some of the questions coming in online have been about people who use Pro Tools, but it does a lot more than they need. And so just to remind everybody, the education price for GCSE students, I think it's £38. Obviously, you can download a free trial, try it out first. But I mean, for the price, it's just ridiculous what you can do here. And I think, like what Dom was saying, that this is just, it's just made for podcasting. So it's doing everything that you need to do to create your great podcast, and you know, and that's it. And that's what you want, because you want to get podcasting. So yeah, listen, thank you so much, Dom, for talking us through all of that and answering everybody's questions.
My pleasure.
I hope, yeah, thank you. It's just been absolutely fantastic. And Dom's colleague, Keith Alexander, will be here next week following on from this. So again, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Steinberg's, Timo and Richard for organizing this session and making this possible. It's been absolutely fantastic. We're back tomorrow evening at 6:30 again. We have the Australian award-winning journalist and producer Sharon Davis, and she's going to be talking all about collecting information, which is a vital part when you're trying to do your podcast series. So make sure to tune in tomorrow at 6:30. Thank you again, Dom, so much for all of this. And thank you for everybody tuning in both here and by social for all your questions. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Tom.
Bye bye. Have a nice
Bye.
evening. Thank you. Bye bye.